Second request, please keep yourself on mute and unmute yourself if you have a question. Um, uh, Please feel free to ask questions in the middle. Just interrupt me and ask a question. If I think the answer for it is coming further down, then I will request you to wait. Otherwise, we'll address it on the spot. So the idea is to make it interactive. So feel free to either post questions in the chat box or to just speak up. Okay. So this is a webinar about our inclusive living project, and this is something we're very excited about. And it's been going on for a while now. Wanted to share just the background. But first, to start with, I'd like to share a little bit about SCAN, because not all of you may be familiar with us. So just take a couple of minutes to talk about SCAN, and then about the inclusive living concept, and then get into the details of the project at Chennai and how you can join and some of the frequently asked questions. I hope I'm audible and clear. If there is any challenge with the audio, please let me know. Okay. So SCAN has been around since 2015. We are basically a support group for families with special needs members, wide range, autism spectrum, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, ADHD, etc. And we realized that a lot of the parents were looking for opportunities for interaction, to share information, to get inputs on therapies, doctors, medication, etc., as well as a chance to socialize, have fun. So it's a combination of things that we do. We have a lot of fun events. We have a lot of music programs. At least we did till the corona hit us, but we hope to resume all those very soon. As well as outings, like you might have seen on the previous slide. We've gone surfing, we've gone on picnics, and so on. We've also had yoga classes, music, pottery, different kinds of experiences for the children, which may help them, and was also fun. We've been conducting workshops and seminars for the parents. We are also active in disability rights advocacy. We work with a number of other groups as well as with the government to try and improve things for the disability sector. We have been always very virtual on Facebook and Telegram app, and of course in the last couple of years increasingly more so. A lot of it has gone online, but we do hope that 2022 will help us all meet face to face. So as I said, our Facebook group has over 4,000 members. We welcome everybody to the Facebook group, whether you're parents or professionals or just people who are interested and want to be supporters of SCAN are welcome to the Facebook group. We have over 700 members on an app called Telegram. This is restricted to parents or to the primary caregiver in the family. So aunts, uncles, grandparents, etc. We don't allow professionals on this group because we wanted to be open and allow for free and frank discussion about different kinds of service providers or doctors or therapists. So we restricted to the family members only. And we have over 700, most of whom are based in, many of whom are based in Chennai, because we started in Chennai, and a lot of our members are here, and all our physical events are here, but we have members from around the world. So the idea is that we want to kind of promote an inclusive society. A lot of the things we do are to talk about inclusion, to have things which make us included as part of the larger society. So whether it's fun events or whether it's workshops or taking part in demonstrations and so on. SCAN is now a trust. Since 2017, we are a trust, a public charitable trust, and we are registered as a non-profit with the IT department, and we have the Section 80G and so on. So we are a registered body with complying with all the regulations. These are some of the key initiatives that we've been working on for the last couple of years. Inclusive living is clearly one of them, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We've also been working on inclusive employment, trying to sensitize corporates and generate employment opportunities for people with disabilities. And we've also been working on awareness campaigns, because one of the very critical things is that while the public in general has heard terms like autism or cerebral palsy, they really don't know how to identify individuals who have these challenges, and also don't know how to interact with them. So in cases where somebody gets lost, somebody has gone wandering and is unable to fend for themselves, we want to sensitize the public to be able to spot such people, whether adults or children, and how to deal with them, how to help them get restored to their families. So we've launched an awareness campaign in 2019, but then the last year or two, it's gone a little subdued, primarily because of the pandemic. Okay, so coming to inclusive living, what is the concept and why did we start this project? The primary thing was, the driver was this big question, which is the minds of parents: what after us, or who after us? Who will look after my child after me, or when I'm incapacitated, when we're not able to manage to look after the child? And as many of you would know, the solution in general has been, other than, of course, the family members looking after the child, the general solution has been some kind of institutionalization, putting them in a home of some kind, home for the mentally challenged, home for the blind, home for the deaf, and so on. And what are the challenges or the downsides to that? It's mostly a hostel type lifestyle, because there are a large number of people and they have to follow a very regimented lifestyle, which is the only way that those institutions can run the place, which means that you have a lack of choice in terms of what you do, what you eat, how you spend your time. You have to go with what everybody is asked to do. You have to be part of the group and do things the way that is being laid out for you. Very often it's removed from society. A lot of these residential places are away from the city, more for reasons of economy. They are away from, away from society in general, even if they are in the city, because they're cloistered separately. So the question that leaves us with is, what is the kind of quality of life that your child would have if they were forced to go into such an institution? We believe that is not the ideal way that one should be able to live, if there is a choice, right? So what is the choice that we are proposing? Which is to be an inclusive in every way, be part of society. So you want to have a lifestyle which is more similar to the kind of lifestyle you had at home with the parents. You want a life full of choices, whether it's a choice of what I eat or what I do today, or what I want to do with my leisure time, in any which way, and definitely be a part of society. Why should one have to sacrifice a trip to the mall or to the beach, or to go watch an IPL game, whatever it may be, and do all these when I want to do it, not when we are taken on a mass picnic or something like that, but when each person who's staying there wants to do different things, we should be able to accommodate those desires. So essentially, try and take quality of life to the way as close as it was with the parents. That is the idea. We can never obviously try and equal the quality of life that you would get with your parents, but at least try and get as close to it as possible. So what does inclusion really mean for us? It means we should be able to live, work, and play amongst others, just like everyone else. And I think this is a very basic human right, to be able to enjoy life, to be able to work or be productively occupied, and to play or to have any kind of recreation and leisure with everybody else, because that's how the world is for most other people. And we don't want to be treated differently. I'm sure many of you have seen this representation where, exclusion is very clear when you're not allowed within the mainstream, within society. Segregation is what very often happens with a lot of residential setups, where they go away from the city, away from, other parts of society, and are kind of segregate themselves. You have integration, and I'm sure you see a lot of that in the city itself, where you have different homes for different kinds of disabilities, but they are in a little island of their own, right? Even if it's within the city, even if it's within, amongst society, but still they're kind of removed from it because they are in a separate corner. What we really are looking for, which is our dream, is to be is true inclusion, where people with disabilities are an integral part of society and mingling with society, not pushed to one corner somewhere. So this is what we are really looking for, and I'm sure that not just us, but a lot of people are, and that's what we're working towards: true inclusion. So the dream, if you look at it, the vision is that we should be with everybody else, right? We should have special needs families, regular families, quote unquote, senior citizens, and group homes for the special citizens, supported with the things that we need in terms of the cafeteria or the food availability, vocational centers, therapy, medical facilities, sports, arts and craft. So all these kind of support infrastructure which we need, as well as employment opportunities, is what we really look for. When we say we want an inclusive society, we'd like to see all of these. Couple of underlying principles in what we are trying to make happen is that, number one, it should be professionally managed, which means that each and every activity, each and every service that's provided should be done by people who are really good at it. And the second is that it should be governed by the residents. The people who are staying there, they're the ones who should have a voice in how things are run. So this is what we are trying to build. And obviously, these numbers are indicative. They may go up and down over a period of time. But definitely to start with, they'll be on the lower side. But this is really the aspiration in terms of how we would want to see an inclusive society. So introducing what is, what we believe is India's first truly inclusive community. And we think this is the way forward for inclusive living. So what do we mean by this? It's it's going to be an inclusive community, meaning we integrate special needs families with others. We have access to all the things we talked about: work, therapy, recreation, and so on. There's an option for independent living or supported living for the person with special needs, especially after the lifetime of the parents. Ultimately, making sure that quality of life is close to what it is like with the parents. And to make that happen, we need to have the legal safeguards. We need to have the legal documentation to ensure safety, security, continuity, and so on. And this is not something which has just happened today or is happening out of the blue. We've been working on this for the last year and a half. It all started early last year, early 2020, when we evolved the concept and actually documented this. So we've been talking about it for a long time. I think probably ever since we started SCAN back in 2015, this question has always been there. Like kind of a Damocles sword is hanging there on top of our heads about what after us. But we put together the concept and presented it at a conference. And then we started making presentations to different stakeholder groups, to different parents, to professionals, and so on. And we had Vidyasagar. I'm sure many of you know Vidyasagar as it's a very well-known institution here based in Chennai. And they agreed to partner with us to manage the group homes and provide caregivers. And we'll talk a little bit more about what group homes are as we go along. And then we started talking to different project developers, because one of the things that we were very clear is that we should not reinvent the wheel. If you're going to build a new community, it doesn't make sense to start from scratch by buying land and building something, because there are experts in this. And those are the developers of large residential communities. So we had a number of meetings with such developers, went and visited a lot of project sites. Meera, do you want to add anything here about this?
We have seen so many projects, more than 13, 14 projects we have seen. Out of this, first thing we were seeing that distance. First, Gemini flyover, we thought it should be within 30 kilometers, at least 30 to 35. And the services which we get in Achia, we expected all that from other builders. So every week it was like a picnic for Gopi and others. They visited the place, they were negotiating, it's a great task actually. I was wondering the energy level of this, the Gopi and others. So it was going great. And finally, after this Google survey, we could reach out this project. We are all very happy about this also, because after this rain, and the place is quite safe. flooding is not happened so far. Even inside, also the outside of the OMR road. So we were discussing about this in our group yesterday, actually. So we are happy about what's going on now.
Thanks, Meera. So
Okay,
as
Gopi?
Meera said, we went through the elaborate process. Basically, why are we telling you this? This is to give you the assurance that this was not just that we decided to partner Akshaya, or Akshaya came forward and we partnered with them. We went through an elaborate process. We evaluated so many projects, as Meera said. Then we shortlisted 4 projects. In between, we did a survey of the families. A lot of families, about 70 families responded to the survey. So that we could understand what the requirements are, so that when we talk to the developers, we can ask the right questions. We also had a meeting with the Disability Commissioner because the government got interested and wanted to see how they could use it for public housing, the state government projects. So we shared the concept with the Disability Commissioner's office as well. So finally, we shortlisted 4 projects in December. We took about 20 families to go see these 4 projects in and around Chennai. They were all in different locations. And then again, there was a rating system, and everybody gave their views. And finally, we actually shortlisted 2 projects to negotiate with. And that took some time as well, because we had to make sure that all our requirements were being met. We had to make sure that the pricing is something which we were, which we felt was fair, etc. And finally, Akshaya was selected, and then we did a last round of negotiation with them and signed up the MOU with them in July. And now we are in November, end of November. We've had over 50 bookings. The construction is underway and expected to be completed soon. And one of the criteria we'd applied, in addition to, of course, how well it will bear up in the case of the kind of rains that we are getting now. In addition to that, one of the considerations we had was we wanted a project that would get over soon. We didn't want to get into a situation where we would be booking a flat and then waiting for 4 years and 5 years, because see, these are all large projects which get done in phases, and there will be delays due to natural situations like rain or cyclones, or for any other reasons. So we didn't want to get into that situation of having to wait for a long time and have to deal with the uncertainty. So we looked for a project which was almost complete, and Akshaya also fitted the bill in that respect. In fact, when we signed the MOU with Akshaya, they're already sold about 19. This complex has 2,100 and something flats. They're already sold about 1,900 of them. So which means there are only hardly 200 flats left. And they're already completed a couple of blocks, and they were on the verge of finishing a few more. So those were all positive points for us. That's the reason that we went ahead with Akshaya. So that's a picture of the MOU being signed, and the press launch for that. And we have the people from Vidyasagar there as well, Poonam Natarajan and Radha Ramesh, and of course some media celebrities, along with the Akshaya managing director and myself. So this is an aerial view of the project. This is in a location called Kelambakam, on the outskirts of Chennai. As Meera mentioned, we wanted it to be within 30-35 kilometers from what we considered as the center of Chennai, for which we took Gemini flyover as a proxy for the center of Chennai. And we wanted it to be about an hour and 15 minutes travel time from there. And that's what this is, just about within that range. It takes about 70-75 minutes from there. Then it's 33 kilometers from the Gemini flyover. As you can see from the pictures, the buildings are coming up. For the most part, they're getting done. The exteriors and interiors are getting done. Most of the buildings are actually, almost all the buildings have been constructed. And about 600 flats, I think, have been handed over and occupied. I don't know, is there somebody from Akshaya here on this call? Blackstone or anybody from Akshaya?
No, Gopi.
Okay, no problem. They said that they would join as well, but no worries. They could have spoken a little bit about this. So essentially, Construction is well underway and different blocks are being handed over at different times. And the blocks that we have booked in, the apartments that we have taken, our members have taken, are all being completed between December and April of next year. That will be next month, December 2021 and April 2022. We were also very particular to have a community which had a range of apartments, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom. And so all three are available if required, and the prices also, approximate prices are on the slide as well. So what are some of the features? Is integrated into a large residential complex, the accessible apartments, a lot of facilities, which are pretty standard in most of these large communities, clubhouse, swimming pool, indoor games, gardens, and so on. We also have been given space as part of the deal for some certain special facilities that we'll be running, which include a therapy center, a vocational education center, a cafeteria. So they've given us allotted space for us to run these facilities. And of course, they have a whole range of amenities, which are quite, like I said, quite standard in terms of the swimming pool and party lawn and so many other things which are there. Some of the things that they're doing for our group, and of course, it should be for everybody, but being sensitive to the people with disabilities, they're putting in things like tactile flooring in the lobby, in the driveways, making sure there are handrails, at different points, that the entire community will be wheelchair accessible, and certain little things like having a sensory walking path with different types of textures and different surfaces, a sand table for play for children on a wheelchair, sensory garden, and in fact, a lot of our members are suggesting different things, and they're trying to incorporate whatever they can. I see there's a query from Jayanti. Go ahead, Jayanti. Yes, Jayanti, you have a question? You raised your hand? No? Okay. Okay. Let me know if there is anything. So what's the special deal that we are getting as part of SCAM is that we're getting a special pricing, 300-400 rupees less than the regular rate. And they're giving us small benefits like, full grills in all the windows. They're making modifications for accessibility for those who need specific modifications, especially for those on a wheelchair who need to have certain modifications done. All those, whatever is required to enable accessibility within the apartment is being done. And of course, like I said, they've given us space for our cafeteria, therapy center, and vocational center. So that's, and there'll be a buggy for transport within the community. Okay. So how will it all work? What is it that, this is going to make this run? One is that we have the support of Vidyasagar. I hope many of you do know of Vidyasagar, if not just a quick introduction. So Vidyasagar institution that works across ages and the range of disabilities. They started off as a school, but they're much more than that. They work with the community. They do a lot of training. They've trained caregivers. So they do a lot of things. And they have certain divisions and certain plans which really go well with what we are looking for. For example, they are focusing a lot on workforce development, training people to work with adults with disabilities. So they're actually training caregivers, support personnel, trainers, job coaches, group home managers, and so on. And what they're doing is they're actually putting together what they call a caregiver cell, which will essentially be an entity that will deploy caregivers to people who need caregiving. And they'll be monitoring this on an ongoing basis. This is something which we require ourselves for our project. So this fitted in very well. They also have a team called TARA, Team for Accessibility and Reasonable Accommodation, which essentially works to ensure that homes are accessible, which means that the people with disabilities are able to try and live independently or need less support to be able to live in their own house. So this team is helping us in creating accessible spaces within the community as well as within the individual homes for the people who are buying there. There's the third aspect which integrates with what we are doing is focus on what they call trust-enabled decisions with support systems, which essentially is about trying to make the people with disability a bit more independent in terms of their day-to-day life, and also have a legal structure for it. So, trust deeds or letter of intent and so on, which will be required from the parents to make sure that the person is looked after and is supported, from a financial perspective as well as legal perspective throughout their life. So these are the things that Vidyasagar help us in. They're going to help us in setting up the group homes, training group home managers, making the homes accessible, and training and deploying caregivers. So that's the role of Vidyasagar in this project, and that's a big support for us because a lot of the ideas that we had in terms of how to approach this whole concept of group homes, inclusion, etc., have come through numerous conversations we have had with Vidyasagar and at workshops that they've had over the past few years, 4 or 5 years. So they've been a big influence in our thinking, and we're very happy that they're going to be partnering with us. So who's going to be here in this inclusivity project? Yeah, pretty much everybody. Families who have a person with disability, a person with a disability or a special citizen who's by themselves, quote unquote regular families, even senior citizens, because they also need very, very similar facilities. So pretty much everybody. So how does it work for a special needs family, right? So the way it works is that the parents buy an apartment. So you buy a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom. And your child or your ward can either stay with the parents or stay in what we call the group home, which is the shared living, right? So, and then there are support services which will be available for all, which essentially are, like I said, the cafeteria, vocational center, therapy center, trained caregivers, sports and fitness, because there are a lot of facilities in the community, and we can very easily make professionals available, like a swimming coach, fitness coach, Zumba coaches, yoga, and so on. All kinds of different activities can be easily done. We are also planning for a special or an inclusive school, partly on the campus, and there are also some options available outside. We'll come to that. So basically, parents buy an apartment and the child can stay either with them or separately. Of course, all the services will be on a payment or a subscription mode. And very importantly, we'll have a management committee which will oversee the operations. And this committee, I'll come to who is part of this committee. So what is a group home? I've been talking about this, so let me explain now what we mean by a group home. So if you remember, earlier I had mentioned that the typical alternative for the question of who after us or what after us is some kind of an institution, right? Where maybe 50, 100, a large number of people are staying, and we felt that takes away from the kind of lifestyle that the child would have been enjoying till then, staying at home with their family. So a group home tries to replicate that kind of an environment. So it's essentially a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom apartment where up to 4 people are housed. Okay, 4 people with disabilities or with support needs. Okay, with appropriate caregivers and so on. So again, you're not moving to a dormitory or a hostel. You're going to be staying in an apartment, which may be a little different from the apartment or the house you were with your parents, but it's also very similar because it's got, the layout is very similar. You've got a living room, a dining room, kitchen, bedroom, and so on. So it's an apartment, and you can take either a single room or a sharing room for your child. The sharing room would be 2 people sharing the room, and single room would obviously person by themselves. Okay, and there's be the cafeteria, so the food can come from the cafeteria, or you can eat there. Or also because there's a kitchen in the apartment, if the person can make some food for themselves and sometimes they'd like to do something, like some cooking or baking, they can do that. And trained caregivers will be there for supporting them as per the need. And definitely there'll be at least 1 caregiver per apartment, which is going to start functioning. All this will start functioning from late next year. And the whole thing is going to be managed by There'll be a group home manager who will be looking after the multiple group homes that we have. We have a resident manager for the entire community as well. So kind of a single point of contact, and this management committee. So what happens is that your ward will be staying in this apartment with 2 or 3 roommates, either occupying a single room or shared room, and they'll be getting the food from the cafeteria or making their own food or a combination of that. And there are support structures to ensure that their life is, without any kind of surprises or incidents. So what's there in the group home? What comes in the group home? It's a completely furnished apartment. So all the furniture and fixtures, your sofas and beds and everything, all the appliances, refrigerator, washing machine, television, geysers, whatever is normally there in an apartment that you stay in would be there. Your basic expenses like electricity and cooking gas and cable TV and Wi-Fi, most important, right? Wi-Fi, all those are covered. They're all part of the deal. Daily housekeeping, so your sweeping, mopping, and all the cleaning is taken care of. We will have at least one caregiver per shift, per apartment, at least a single shift bare minimum, and more depending on the need of the people there. So is there a question, Shubha? Shubha, do you have a question? You raised your hand. No? Okay. Maybe a mistake. And this covers the things like, for example, when in the apartment every month you got to pay maintenance to the association, the residents association, that's taken care of. All the repairs and maintenance taken care of. The services of the group home manager and the resident manager, all that is included in what is what is paid for the group home. What's not included in the charges would be the cost for additional caregiving if you need an additional caregiver time. And that will be determined along with Vidyasagar in terms of what is the extent of care that your child or your ward would require. Any personal items obviously would not be included. Then food is not included because we don't know the preferences of each person may be different. Some may want to make some meals themselves. Some would like to have certain dietary restrictions, etc. So we've not included the food. It is, but if there is, if you take up, what we plan in the cafeteria is that we should be able to provide a standard set of meals like, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and coffee and tea and things. We should be able to provide it at rupees 250 rupees per day. Just 1 second, I'm sorry. For those of you who heard, that was my dog who wanted to be let out. She's heard this talk of mine too many times and didn't want to be part of it anymore. So coming back, group homes, what's not included is the food is obviously going to be extra because it depends on the preferences and the dietary needs of the person. But we want to be able to provide on the bare minimum, kind of a not just the bare minimum, but a fairly substantial daily food for about 250 rupees per day. Medicines and medical care again would be dependent on the needs of the person. And things like laundry, which really come under personal expenses, are not included in the charges as we are laid out right now. So what would be the charges we're currently looking at? We're looking at a single room costing 24,000 rupees per month and a shared room costing 15,000 rupees per month. Like I said, it includes all those things which we mentioned in the previous slide. And these are right now approximate, more or less firm, but there may be some small changes because we are almost a year away from operationalizing them. Very important thing would be that the parents and guardians would have to execute a letter of intent and create a trust for their ward before they enter the group home. And an assessment would be done by Vidyasagar to determine the care requirements so that you make sure that the correct, adequate care, the support is provided for your child or ward. And like I said, of course, we have the support structure in terms of people to supervise and look after things. one question which people keep asking us is, are there schools around the place? Are there, whether it's special school or regular school in and around the Akshaya property? If you can see on the map, towards the bottom of the map is where the Akshaya is located, is that blue blob there. And all the things in red are the schools which are around in the vicinity. There are a whole lot of them. And some of them are named here. Chettinad Sarvaloka School is very, very close by. It's in the Chettinad Hospital premises, about hardly 2 kilometers away. Then you have PSBB, APL, Gateway, HLC, and so on. So large number of schools in the vicinity. The other question which we keep getting is about what will my child do? How will they be kept occupied in the premises? And whether it's schooling or therapy, education, vocational, and so on. So we've classified in 4 buckets. One is, of course, below 12 years old, children below 12 years. So there will be a nursery school on the site. Akshaya is planning to run a nursery school, and which we have discussed with them, and we'll make it an inclusive school. We'll give them the support required to make it inclusive. Then, of course, there'll be a lot of games and sports, and we will be providing remedials with individual education plans for the children. We'll be making sure there are adequate, special educators and so on to be able to provide that. All therapies, of course, which they need, whether it's in terms of speech or OT or whatever, would be provided in the therapy center. And like I mentioned, there are inclusive schools as well nearby, as well as regular schools, both for the child who needs support, or if there are siblings who need schooling as well. We've broadly classified the 12 to 20-year-olds as being in a pre-vocational stage, where there would be some level of functional academics, or in case some of them are going in for NIOS training, we will be able to provide trainers and the staff to help them with that. And then, of course, a lot of other activities, music, sports, fitness, yoga, that kind of stuff, as well as certain other things which they'll be teaching them in the pre-vocational category, would be sorting and matching skills, life skills in terms of concepts of time and money and so on. So it's going to be a mixture of these activities as well as a little bit of academics, which would be there in the pre-vocational program. Then we have a vocational program, which is really meant for the young adults, where they would be making a lot of different products. And the idea of the vocational program is that it's a vocational production center. So we actually hope to be able to generate some revenue for this and be able to pay a stipend to those who are in the vocational stream, rather than, so basically the below 12 years and the pre-vocational would be something where there would be some payment required because there is a cost to this, right? But when it comes to the vocational, we really hope to be able to make this something which the trainees or the interns would take home a stipend. Not the parents don't have to pay much, but it would be the other way around. That's the intent, and we have had fair degree of experience in doing this. We have Lata here on the call. Lata?
Yeah.
Lata was running Tharang, which is a vocational center for many years, and she's the architect behind a lot of this. So I'm going to really get at her, talk more about this.
Yes, our SCAN vocational and jobs will be more like a sheltered workshops, where the interns will be in the safe hand and work in a safe environment, which helps them to improve their self-esteem and self-confidence. Once they settle, the interns will be paid for the work. So the main aim is to engage them more productively and to make them economically independent. Okay. Yes,
that's it. Okay. So
yeah.
that's Lata, and she's the one who's really putting a lot of this together. Of course, when it comes to the employment, there's one thing which we are very confident that, see, there's going to be a lot of jobs within the community. In fact, when I first talked to Mr. Chitti Babu, the founder and chairman of Akshaya, he said, you know what, I got jobs starting right today. Even 6 months back, he said, can you deploy a few people? I would love to take them on right now on the project site. So I said, well, we're not right there. We'll have to move there because right now moving to Kelapaka will be difficult. But once we are there, we'd like to see what are the jobs possible within the community. So he said, very simple, I need at least 200 people to work in the community, because Once it is fully occupied, we are expecting there'll be close to 10,000 people there. 2,100 apartments. So I don't know, maybe 5 people per apartment on average. So they're expecting something like 10,000 people to be living there, right? So he said there's going to be plenty of jobs. So whether it's in terms of the grocery store, the pharmacy, the cafeteria, so there'll be things through deliver goods. There will be newspapers or the medicines or the food. There's a question here from Pravantika about whether it's jobs for all residents. Will it be given based on eligibility? So I think it will be given. Well, I wouldn't. It's not about giving the job as such, but really we'll have to look at the interest and the capability of the person. So the attempt is to make sure that all those who are interested and who are able to pick up some job are employed there, or they are in the vocational center where we are able to help them in the vocational activities, which are also like a job in the sense that, like I said, Lata said also, we hope to be able to give them a stipend for that so that they're productively employed. That's the idea. So once they are 20 years plus, we want them to take up a job in the community or in the vocational center. Smita had a question. Smita, your hand was raised. No? Okay. No problem. So one of the things is that for example, you take the clubhouse, right? When you enter a clubhouse, any club, there's somebody at the reception who needs to check the ID or check which apartment you're in, things like that, right? So there's a job like that. There's also a need for a person at the gym or at the swimming pool just to mark which apartment number the person is from, whether they have a guest and things like that. So there are a lot of such jobs in the community which are up for grabs, in the sense that the first preference will be given to our children, to our residents, working with our association, working with our group itself, because we will also have to have some help in terms of accounts and so on. So somebody who knows computers or can be trained can be part of that. One of the very early webinars we had a very accomplished lady who runs a school in Chennai, Radha Ganeshan, who runs a school called Swabodhini. She put her hand up and said, Gopi, there will be a grocery store in the premises, right? And I said, yeah, sure, there should be. She said, yeah, I think so. And she said, let's take over the store and run it. I will train everybody and to run the store. She says, and Swabodhini has been running courses in retail. In fact, they have a tie-up with Guru Nanak College in Velachery, and they offer certificate programs in retail. They used to run a store themselves in their school. So Radha knows all about training our children for the retail industry. So she said, I will help you run the store. So let's take over the store and run it. And Akshaya was said, great. If you think you can run the store, we'd be very happy. So running the grocery store, so whether it's billing or it's stocking the shelves or delivery, that's going to be jobs for at least half a dozen people there. So like that, I think, and the best part is it's because it's a gated community, it's a safe space. You're within the complex. You're not going out. There will be a lot of relief for parents that their child or ward is being occupied productively and happily. And it's a very safe space, and you don't have to commute. There's no question of going out and taking public transport or an auto or whatever. So it's a very safe kind of an employment. Sujata, I will address your question separately if we just went past it. Yeah. And Deepa, will there be support for children with behavior issues? Yes. The support requirements will be determined along with Vidyasagar and the parents and any other assessments that need to be done, and therefore the appropriate support will be provided. We know that it's a moving target. Sometimes there would be times where there's more support required and times there's less, but we'll have to figure out those things and provide the support as required. There's a very long question from a Dr. Lina Utop. Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
So how many of the residents are going to be families? See, right now we have about 50 families have booked, and we are hoping to get at least another 50 families to book apartments. And we know that a lot of people will say that we'll come in after it, takes off, and once it is, once it's up and running. So I expect that in a couple of years we'll have probably 200 families with special needs. And then, of course, senior citizens also we are encouraging, not that we are directly influencing it, but we are just, kind of talking about it and asking people to, pass on the word among senior citizens that may be worthwhile. Very important, we want to be dispersed among the society. So when people are booking apartments, we have not asked Akshaya to set aside any block for us. We don't want to be in a ghetto. So people have booked apartments across the different blocks, depending on which block they liked and which floor they liked and so on. So true inclusion means that you're not going to be, all together in this community. You're going to be dispersed. And of course, you can choose your neighbors. So 2-3 families want to stay next to each other. That happens. Otherwise, you choose the flat that you like. So we are dispersed amongst the community. Sorry, Chitra, you had raised your hand. You have a question?
Hi, Gopi.
Hi, Chitra.
Really great to listen to the whole thing, and feeling great, enthused by all of you, and hopefully we will follow your footsteps here in Mumbai. Gopi, I hope you have a problem of plenty, but I think you are not there yet. Wanted to check, are you going to be screening parents, or will you say yes to everyone who comes?
What do you think the answer is?
I don't think you'll say no to anyone.
We don't want to say no. We don't want to say no, you're right. Because see, we want to be inclusive, which means that we should also include, right? When we say we want to be included, and this is the thing I think many of us as parents have faced the brunt of our children or our families not being included, whether it's in a educational situation or a social situation. We've all faced the brunt of exclusion, right? And felt that it was very unfair that our kid was not invited to the party, our kid didn't get admission to the school, we were not welcomed in the community or in the in the playground. Having gone through all that and fighting for inclusive living, for inclusion. So the idea is not to say no. The idea is to say yes as much as possible. To the extent that we can support. I mean, if suppose somebody comes with a situation where we cannot support, then we have to say no. Already I'm being told that, see, you're doing this for a certain category of people who can afford these apartments. You are excluding people who cannot afford these apartments. So yes, those things we can't help. So we are, we are cognizant of. So to that extent, we are being exclusionary. But the idea is not to exclude.
Okay, is your maximum going to therefore be 200 flats?
Yeah.
Out of 2,000? It's 200.
Again, I mean, that's my estimate that people will move in. Like right now, we have 50. We are hoping to get another 50 in the next few months. And then I know a lot of people will come on rent because they're not in a position to buy. And some people will buy later. So I'm just expecting in a couple of years that our community size will grow up to 200. This is just my feel.
Sorry, I'm asking all the questions. Is Vidyasagar going to be there on the premise? Therefore, how will they provide the caregivers?
Okay, so what Vidyasagar is doing is they are training some people as group home managers, who are the people who will be there on the premises, because as a manager, you have to be there. Then they're training caregivers for us. In fact, we are also trying to identify people to be trained as caregivers. So those caregivers will be deployed, as required and, managed by the group home managers. So they are the people who will be there on site from Vidyasagar. And obviously their caregivers cell, which they are putting together, which is keeping an eye on all the caregivers they have and the group home managers will perhaps be, that cell maybe coming in and going, from managing from remote for the most part. But their seasoned people will be the group home managers who will be there. So we are estimating that as we grow, we will need probably one group home manager for every 10 group homes we have. Right now, we are starting with half a dozen group homes. So we'll start with one group home manager. But as we go along, we will have more people there. Answered your question. So
Thanks, Gopi. Thanks.
Cool. So Vijay had a question. What happens if you can't move in immediately? You can move in when you like. That's not an issue. You can rent out your apartment and move in later. That's your choice. How many groups are there? Is a group home assured if you buy an apartment? Okay, so these are all some of the questions that people do ask all the time. So we'd like to obviously give you the the assurance that you're moving in here so that your child will be in a group home at the right time in your child's life. To that extent, the answer is yes. Because one of the advantages of a large community like this, where there are 2,000 apartments, is that there are always apartments available for sale or for rent. So for us to be able to expand, like for example, we're going to start with probably half a dozen group homes. But if I need to add group homes, to rent an apartment and convert to a group home will not be much of a challenge. I'm sure most of you who stay in apartments have experienced that there's always, for example, I stay in an apartment, in a building which has 67 apartments. And it pretty much all the time, there are 1 or 2 apartments for rent or for sale. And imagine when it's 2,000 apartments, there'll always be a dozen or more than that available for rent or for sale if we can afford it. So we can always expand, provided we have adequate time. That in the sense that somebody says, listen, I want my child in the group home from tomorrow. That may be a little difficult at all times. You may not have space. But if it's a planned thing that you say that, okay, next year I want my child to move into the group home, then we can definitely plan for it and make sure that we have a suitable apartment ready and so on. Not a problem. So will Vidyasagar do the training and vetting of the staff? Yes, the caregivers and so on, they will be, that's their contribution to this. So just to give you a sense of how this whole thing is managed, because people always have this doubt about who's going to run the show and etc. So there is the SCAN Trust, of course, I spoke about, and there's a management committee. We will have a person as a resident manager. This is going to be a position that I hope one of our group members fills as a paid position, to be the kind of single point of contact or the primary point of escalation for anything within the community. We want somebody who's living there to take up that role. And then would come we have the group home partner Vidyasagar, and they will be having the group home managers and the caregivers. Then a vocational center, of course, going to be run by us, by Lata and others, and they will be having educators as well as vocational center staff with them. We will have somebody to run the therapy center. We are not going to, the idea is to have an existing service provider, somebody who's running a therapy center, come in and run it. Or if there are individual therapists who people recommend and say they're good, then we can provide the space and say that, you can come in at certain times of the day. But we'll have somebody running that for us, and the therapist. And of course, there will be this cafeteria will be run by somebody. And then the kitchen and service staff there, and housekeeping. For the group homes, we'll be providing the housekeeping. So we will probably again, have somebody as to outsource it to the staff there. And of course, we will be having finance and accounts for our own group. And all this, this is the important part. There's the management committee, which will be comprised of parents who are staying there. We will have experts like, a doctor, a psychologist, and maybe a lawyer or a chartered accountant or some such other expertise as well. And representation from persons with disability, because they are the main stakeholder, right, that we're all doing this for. And what is their job? Their job is to oversee the operations. In a sense that it's, while, all committees can never work on a full-time basis, we will expect different parts of the management committee to take up the responsibility of overseeing different things. For example, a couple of people could be looking after the group home and just keeping an eye on things. Similarly, a couple more could be looking after the therapy center and then the cafeteria and so on. So they oversee the operations. They want to have to make sure the well-being of the group home residents and also help in generating employment opportunities. And like any other committee which is there in a residential community, we're expecting this to be on a rotational basis. Different parents take it up. So we want, for maybe like a 2-year tenure for this committee, and we have others take it up after that. So this will ensure the continuity. This will ensure that the longevity of this project happens, because it can't just be the few of us who are currently involved. To be looking after this all the time, we have to have this set of people who will be taking up responsibility at different times. And we want to involve the experts like a doctor and a psychologist, because I think they will be able to help us identify, if there's any challenge or there's anything which is not going well in terms of the well-being of the residents there. For example, there may be some children who are non-verbal, and we'll find it very difficult to figure out if there's any kind of something they're unhappy about. But somebody who's a psychologist and who's interacting with them on a frequent basis would probably have a better insight into their emotional well-being and so on. So that's the idea. And there are enough people we know who are happy to come in as part of their contribution, or this could be on a paid basis that we have these experts come in and it can be rotated through. The other thing which we are going to be doing, which was suggested by somebody a few months ago, is that there is Chettinad Hospital, which is a multi-specialty hospital very close by. It's about 2 kilometers away. And while Akshaya will have a clinic, they are going to have a medical center on the premises. That is going to be more of a initial first aid kind of a center and a kind of a first respondent kind of a place. What we will try and do is to have a tie-up with Chettinad. Basically enroll everybody, all our residents, all the children for sure from the group home over there, so that the basic information is captured by them. You're registered there, your medication or your allergies and so on are known. So in case of any emergency, it will be very easy to use their services. You're already a known person, a known patient there. And we also will have planned for frequent camps, maybe once in 3 months or 6 months. There can be a team which comes from Chettinad to do a health checkup of our residents on the premises, just to make sure that we don't wait for something alarming to happen. We try and catch things early. Having the facility of a hospital within 2 kilometers is definitely going to be very useful for that purpose. Just a couple of questions. Caregiver will be available for one shift. So Vijay, the thing is that it really depends on the need, right? There are a number of youngsters that I know who don't need care during the night. If somebody is there from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., then they're able to manage the night. But if not, we will provide. There will be some people who may need individual 24/7 care, and therefore the care will be provided. The one shift was really more from a costing point of view, and because we had to plan for something. So we said we'll take the bare minimum to put into the fixed cost. And the rest of it will be based on what is required for the people staying there. For example, it could even be that for 2 apartments which are next to each other, 2 group home apartments, one caregiver may be sufficient for the night to look after all 8 of them, as long as that person is, on a shift where they're staying awake and can be responsive to any need of the 8 residents there. So in which case, we just need to have 1 person for the night shift. You don't need to have 1 per apartment. There may be somebody else, some other place where, because the need of the person, one of the residents is that they need a person by their bedside throughout, then they may need to have a dedicated caregiver there. So, we really are trying to see how to optimize the cost of these things. So we had just planned for, one as a part of the kind of the fixed cost, and more caregiving will be provided as per the need of the residents. We'll also try and match the grouping of people. One, of course, is they have a preference that they want to stay with somebody else. That's great. Otherwise, we will also try and match it so that the care needs are kind of optimized. That's the idea. And typically one shift these days for care is 12 hours, where most of the nurses and attenders and so on are 12 hours. So we'll see whether that works. If not, probably 10 hours for sure, we would have a shift. Revati, there is going to be a medical center in the community that's planned by Akshaya. And as I just mentioned, we'll also have a tie-up with Chettinad Hospital. Deepa, the question was, what happens to parents pass on? That's the thing. 100%. The whole idea is that this is where the child can continue to stay in the group home. That's the whole idea. This is meant for that eventuality, because it is going to happen. Unfortunately, all of us will pass on one day. So that's the whole idea of this setup. Child will continue to stay there. And yes, even at the time of entry into the group home, a trust and a financial plan will have to be set up so that there is continuity for the child. I'm sure you have experienced also that we have seen, especially in the last year with COVID, we've had unfortunate situations of both parents passing away suddenly, leaving children orphaned. They may be special needs children or neurotypical children. But the point is that without access to the parents' finances, the children have had to really undergo some amount of trauma on that front, in addition to the emotional part, right? Because there's no access to the bank account, there's no access to the funds, and it takes a while for the legal processes to churn all that through and be able to, for them to unlock those things. So we're very cognizant of the financial planning to be done and a trust to be set up, because there has to be a responsibility for, because in all probability the child is no longer a child legally speaking, over 21, and therefore we need to have the legal right to look after the child. So all that will have to be done. Yes, group homes will be separate for boys and girls, unless if the parents are comfortable, and let's say they know each other, and a couple of boys and a couple of girls the parents want them to stay together, that should also be perfectly fine. But in general, yes, it would be separate for boys and girls. Okay, so that was the very important part here, and because this keeps coming up with a lot of different contexts. And while I mentioned it at the beginning that we are a non-profit and we are not doing this as a commercial venture, I still have to say this because people do ask, we're charging so much, what happens? Can't you reduce? Can't it? No. How do we make sure what doesn't go up? Who takes the profit and so on? So I wanted to make it very clear, we are a non-profit entity. The whole idea of this initiative is that it's a parent-led, parent-managed entity. And anything which is there in terms of any surplus or any funds which come into this project will be for the project. So whether it's the charges from the group homes, charges for the therapy center, etc., if there's any surplus which we get, it will be kept for this endeavor itself. It's not going to be going into anybody's pocket. Like I said, wherever there is a payment going to somebody, like for example, the resident manager is going to be a paid position. Obviously, that will be we are stating that up front. So it's not there's no other remunerative position unless it's just publicly declared as such. The idea is that if we make it a completely parent-led, parent-driven activity, we are trying to keep the cost down because of that. And whatever are the charges which are being talked about are only to cover the costs. So if we find that the costs are going up, we'll obviously have to increase charges. But if the costs go down, then the charges also will come down over time, or we will keep the surplus for anything else which comes up, or for any other expenses which may crop up. So this is going to be a completely not-for-profit kind of initiative from SCAN perspective. So I will share my contact number, Pravantika. It's there, and so Radha, your question is whether all children. See, we would like to, as I answered to Chitra some time back, the idea is not to say no. If you are able to, provide the care and support that any child needs, we would like to say yes. It's only in situation where we are not able to provide whatever is required for the child, that we may have to say no. That is not something we would like to do. You can definitely, we can maybe discuss offline about your child being a day scholar and then group home. I don't know, that depends on the age and so on. We definitely can chat up about that. Um, um, Chitra has got a question about the age. So essentially, for the group home, we would say that you would have to be 18 plus, because we want, what is the age at which it would be natural for the child to stay away from the parents. Like for many of us who went off to college elsewhere, or moved out of home when we started working, it's when you're an adult, right? So I think that's the age at which it is appropriate to talk about the child being a little bit more independent, by and large. Of course, in case of any exigency, if there is some situation which demands it, and a younger child needs to be accommodated, we can always look at that. I mean, that goes without saying. But in general, we would say at the age of 18 is where you would consider looking at your child in the group home. So this is my number. I've just posted it there for anyone who needs. It's also there at the end of the slide, and I'll share it with you. Okay. So I think we've gone through this. So some of the FAQs and things which people are constantly asking. So when will the apartments be ready? End of this year to April next year. We should have all the common amenities hopefully by March, and then people can move in sometime by the middle of the year. And we hope the group homes to start functioning by August, September, October next year, once we have the apartments and do up the apartments and so on. How do you join? There are 5 steps to join. One is, you can contact us and confirm your interest. Visit their website, Akshaya website, choose your apartment. You can visit the place, or even do a virtual tour and choose your apartment, and then you pay a booking advance to confirm it, and and then of course you can, if your child is ready for a group home and you want to make sure you get a slot, you can book it. The only thing we say is book early to get the best choices, because the number of apartments available is coming down. Because when we started, they had about 180 apartments available. Now it's about 100, because we've had 50 plus booked from our side, and then of course they're doing their regular sales as well. So they have only about 100 apartments left to choose from. Another question is, will other people accept? What will happen? So we found very good response. Akshaya has been putting ads in the paper about this. There are other residents who are very well aware that our group is coming in. Acceptance so far, the feedback has been very positive, and we will do our bit for socialization. We have a lot of experience from SCAN, doing events, doing a lot of programs, social programs, getting the community involved, etc. We had a center called Mitra in Besant Nagar in Chennai, and we had a lot of programs, and we used to get the whole community. People who used to go for regular evening walks used to stop by and have a cup of coffee with us and listen to some music and go. So we will do all of that which is required to be accepted. We'll make life fun for them. We'll have so many nice things happening that they'll all want us to be running our programs, having some music, having some entertainment and stuff like that. Okay. Is it possible to rent a flat and then buy later? Sure, of course you can rent and be part of the community. Everybody may not be in a position to buy a flat at this stage. And there will always be a flats available. However, if somebody wants to buy, right now they're offering a special rate and certain benefits. So it's, from a financial point of view, it may make sense to buy now instead of buying later. We already talked about the jobs for people there, and so I don't want to go that again. So another question we get often is, can somebody stay in the group home without the family moving in? Is just the person who needs support or the person with disability who comes there? Yes, very much so. Again, we don't want to say no. We do hope that we'll have enough space in the group homes, but of course, we think it's nice to have the family there in the community, so that your child on board also doesn't think that they're being sent away, but the family is there close by, and the family also gets a good insight into how the child is being looked after by being part of the community, and they can of course also be part of all the different things that happen in the community. So will there be assurance of place in the group home? yeah, as much as possible, yes, we're going to do that. And we'll, like I said, we'll always plan on having more group homes, and we can always rent places so that we can expand the number of group homes very easily. Right. So who buys the group home? This is a question that the financially insightful people ask us. You're only a trust, where do you have the funds to buy a group home? So one is that we've had benefactors, some of our parents who have bought apartments, who booked an apartment and said, listen, take this, use this as a group home. So we have 3-4 people who've done that, who said that I'm buying an apartment for Scan to use as a group home, and we offer to pay them a reasonable rental which we can afford, so that we have that for our use. We've also been talking to some financiers, some investors, which is I think going to be taking some time, because some of them are interested, but they would still like to see us start operations before they help us fund it. But it's being seen as a social investing kind of a approach, and there are people who are interested in it. So eventually we hope to buy group homes and own them, but right now we're looking at the rental model, and rental from friends and supporters who are buying the apartments and asking us to use them. So that way we don't have to worry about getting evicted and things like that. The landlord wants it back and so on. So that's how we are doing, and if required, we can just rent from a general owner as well. So how the charges being determined is based on really on the cost, and I showed you all the different services that are there. So idea is that we try and provide all the services that are required at the lowest cost possible, and we are a non-profit anyway. So what happens to the parents' apartment? That's up to you. What you want to do with the apartment, you can keep it and have some of the family members stay there. You can sell it. You can donate it to us. Anyway, it's your apartment. You take a call on what you want to do, as long as you're able to provide financially for your child in the group. Okay, there's a question here from Mahesh. This is a issue of the right. How is the status of the surroundings of the approach road? Naturally, it's a concern for everybody. I think by and large, the apartment, as you say, is high and dry. We've had people, in fact, not in this rain, but in the earlier rain, which happened just after Diwali. We had people go there and take some videos. It was absolutely dry, and also not just dry, but the water was draining out very fast from the community. So it's safe. Roads and access roads, by and large, OMR has been okay this time. What I'm told. Though somebody mentioned today that Kelambakam Junction there is some waterlogging, which I really don't know exactly how it is. But I think the apartment and the immediate surroundings are okay. Beyond that, it's not in what should I say? It's not in our control. So that's the situation. And also how it will be sometime from now, we never know. Today it may be okay, but next year or year after, when it rains, the surroundings may, have some waterlogging. Ankit, if you buy an apartment, you're not, I think will you be able to manage it? Sure. I mean, in the sense that if you want to give it to us to use as a group home, great. We will use it as a group home till the point that you need it. But otherwise, if you need it just to be rented out and depending on when you're coming back, that should be possible. Even if Scan doesn't manage it, we can put you on to somebody, property managers, etc. there who will be able to manage it for you. So that's not an issue. Really depends on when you're going to return to Chennai and what you want. We can connect offline on that, Ankit. No worries. Okay. I think Shubha, I think you're ending up drawing some things on it, but that's okay on the screen, but that's okay. And another point that I kind of missed out on talking is that we are planning to have a few lawyers as well as financial planners available for people to utilize their services in order to form the trust, do the planning for the child's future, and so on. In fact, one of them is on the call here today. So Chitra, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. So Chitra is not only a special mom, but also a financial planner. So she's one of the people whose services I hope that we will be able to use and parents can use. The idea is that we'll have 3-4 people, and depending on comfort, you can contact any of them and they will help you with the financial planning. And similarly, we have a lawyer in our group who's been part of the core group from the beginning, Kiran Gupta. I don't think he's on the call, but and there are a few others also we will get into the loop, so that we have suitable advisors for everyone to utilize.
Gopi, I think this is fantastic what you're doing, because not only are you ensuring that parents also know exactly how much they need to keep aside for the child, but you guys also are secured, because
Yes,
it should not fall on you,
true.
When you're working it out to such detail, the whole plan of making the will, the trust, the LOI, all of that, and along with that the financial planning, to see that from where will that money come monthly is extremely important for as long as our child is alive. And along with that, any health concerns also, for that the money needs to be provided by the parent. And yeah, I'm extremely happy to. I'm
Wonderful.
there for you anytime you need anything. Yeah.
Super. Thank you, Chitra. We definitely will count on you.
Most welcome. Yeah.
Great. So that brings me to the end of whatever I wanted to share. I just wanted to ask Mangai, Lata, Meera, anybody from our group who want to add anything, because I usually keep talking and I don't give them a chance. So anybody has anything to add? No? Any further questions, comments? Okay, there's some for. Oh, thank you, Atma, for nice words. Please do encourage your parents to join this if there are some who would be interested in it, and we'd love to have you guys come and interact with us once we are up and ready there. So, thank you so much, Atma. Any other comments or queries? You can unmute and speak as well. I know I've kept everybody for.
Gopi, I had a question.
Sure.
So when the parent is buying the flat, you're not expecting them to buy that space in the group home also, right?
See, the group home is a shared accommodation, so it doesn't. It gets very cumbersome if 3 or 4 people are going to buy it together, and so that's why it is going to be on a rental mode. And not everybody wants it from the beginning. There are people there are families here who have younger children. For example, there are the range we have of ages of the children or the families who have already booked is probably from 6 years all the way to 40 something. So there are 6 years, 10 years, 12-year-old children, and obviously they're not going to be into the group home right now. The families want to be part of the community, so they've bought in. I think we have Shubha, who's here on the call, who's got a young child, and so many others like that. So they will be coming into. They'll be using the group home later. So it doesn't make sense to invest in it right now. And also we wanted to give flexibility. So there's a lot of suggestions came in. For example, one of the things that Vidyasagar, Poonam Natarajan of Vidyasagar has been saying is that, see, we should not think that the children are just for us to just place in a group home. They may have their own preferences of roommates and who they want to be with. So maybe a year or two down the line, after they move in, there may be 2-3 of them who are buddies and want to stay together. So we must have the flexibility to say, okay, now we'll move you. You can shift from one group home to the other, which becomes difficult if the parents have bought into one apartment and so on, which is also a reason why we want to furnish all the group homes fairly identically, so that all the amenities are the same. It should not be that one has a better TV than the other or something like that. So we try and be consistent in the furnishing so that you can shift from one to the other. Hopefully you shift because you want to stay with somebody, but in some cases we have to be prepared that there could be some issues between a couple of the residents in the same group home. They don't get along or whatever, and we need to move them or to optimize the caregiving because it makes more sense for shared caregiver with two others. So whatever the reason may be, we are just being prepared for all those things. Deepa, your question is, will this be available to view later? Definitely. I mean, this is being recorded and I will share it and we will have the link with us. So you can just reach out to us to get the link, and I'll probably put it up on YouTube or something and we can share the link if you contact us. Thanks, Vanita, for the comments. Nice words, Ankit. Audacious is not the word I would have used, but yes, in a sense it is. And please be in touch for any future planning as well. Thanks, Ankit. And I don't know whether you're rooting for New Zealand or India in this cricket match, but I think that's what I've taken everybody away from in the ongoing test match. So. Any other?
Yeah, Mr. Gopi, before you wind up, I have a
Yes,
query.
ma'am.
Like, since I have a girl, so is it, do you have the CCTV cameras fixed in the common areas like vocational centers? And even if I put her in the shared accommodation, so that the parents can be, feel the safety of the kids, at least in the common areas, like we can watch what they are doing. Are you planning such?
Yes, actually the common areas, as in the corridors and lifts and all that already, there will be CCTV cameras, I think, from
No. What I mean is in the vocational centers and in the, maybe in the hall of the shared,
we will have CCTV cameras in the in all our common, the cafeteria, the therapy center, and so on. Okay. And in the apartments also, we will probably have in the common area of the group homes, that is the living room, dining room, would have. Right. We've had a lot of debate about where does privacy start, and this where you should not have CCTV camera. So there is a big question mark around inside the apartment, even the living room or the dining room. I mean, would any of us want to be living in a place where somebody else can watch what we're doing while we're sitting and watching TV in the living room? Is a big question mark. And definitely it's a question mark when it comes to the bedroom, bathroom, and so on. I think it's a double-edged sword. I mean, there are arguments made that in case of children who need support for getting dressed, undressed, taking bath, and so on, that CCTV is a safety precaution. At the same time, there is the other argument: it's an invasion of privacy. I really find it difficult to find an answer to that. So, but I think in all probability we will try to avoid in the what would be a private area.
Understand.
But
no, I think at least for the
areas we can have.
I think you can, at least for the public areas, like as you said, like you can give at least one access only, at least for the parents. Maybe you can restrict and you can have some special screening only for parents, so that I hope you understand our mothers.
No, 100%. See, the question, especially in a shared accommodation, we have to be careful because it is not only your child, right? So it's also somebody else's child there. So do you want to allow 2-3 other parents to be watching what's happening in the living room of your daughter's group home at any point or not? So these are little tricky questions. So I think we will address them as we go along, and maybe we will say that it is, maybe the management committee has the rights to view, and if there is a challenge or an issue, then the parent can discuss with the parents and have some of them view things like that. We will have to evolve some of those answers, maybe some of them on a case-to-case basis. So that's the thing.
Thank you, Mr. Gopi.
Okay, I hope I've answered. Thank you. Surajit, I don't understand your question. I'm sorry. Can you maybe just speak up and ask what you can one opt for group home without buying, or buy now, convert later? I'm not very clear what you're asking. If the question is, can you put your child in the group home without you buying a flat? The answer is yes, we would like to accommodate to the extent that we can. There have been requests already by people who say that we cannot move to Kelambakam for whatever reason, but we would like our child to be there in the group home. So can you accommodate? And we have said, yes, we can definitely try and do so.
Yes.
But I didn't understand the second part of your question. Sorry. Yes, Surajit.
Yes, thanks. It's something like that. Actually, I'm based in Delhi
Mhm.
and I have my job and I'm a single parent.
Mhm.
So the child is also studying in Delhi music. He's
Okay.
high functioning autism.
Sure.
So I'm not able to make up my mind whether this place is right for him, but I want to keep the options open.
Sure.
So without knowing that he'll fit in, I can't just jump in. But I don't mind trying if I get a chance.
Mhm.
I want to try in this group living thing for him.
Sure.
If he fits in, then I opt. Actually, yeah.
To buy an apartment or to move here.
Maybe
I
I'll
understand.
contact you. I'll contact you and I'll have a chat
Sure.
with you.
See, the general principle I would say is if he is comfortable leaving you in Delhi and coming to Chennai and staying, if he's kind of processing that thought and he's okay with it, I would say no harm in trying.
That's what
but
I
if
exactly
he-
want to try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are
Yeah.
some, because there's another case also we had, in fact, there was a family which visited from Bombay and they have the same concern, but their daughter is like very clear and she's saying, hey, I want to go live there. Why don't you let me? Let's hope that they resolve that for themselves.
Yeah.
But similarly, on the other hand, there are, children who may not fully comprehend what it means to be
Right.
away from the parent.
Right.
But so then it is good to have the parents close by for support, so that if they're staying there. So I think it's a case to case and you can think about it and you can always chat.
So we'll try. Thank you.
Super. Thanks. Thank you, Chitra, for the nice words. Anybody else? Any questions? Feel free to contact us anytime. Most of you have Meera Balaji's number, which is also displayed on the screen. I have shared my number in the chat box. So feel free to contact us. There's also our email ID, contact@scanfamily.com. So, we can always continue the conversation one-on-one, and take it forward. The only thing is that for those who are seriously considering, I would say that earlier the better. Only because if you're looking at buying an apartment, you will have more choice today than you probably will have 2 weeks from now, in terms of the apartments available and so on. So to that extent, it may make sense to try and decide earlier rather than later. Any questions, please feel free to get back to us. We'll be very happy to address any queries that you have on phone or WhatsApp or anything like that. So looking forward to hearing from many of you soon. Okay, with that, I'm going to call it a day. And thank you all so very much for being here and participating. And definitely, I will share the recording to as many people as possible. If not, you can reach out to us and we will share the recording. Just give us a day to get it sorted out. Thanks to everyone for having participated. Deepa, thank you, and definitely we look forward to seeing you in December. Thanks, Revati. Thank you all. It's been a wonderful conversation, at least for me. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gopi and others who attended the call.
Thank you.